Good morning, it's 9 o'clock. Welcome to Norfolk's biggest and brightest listen. I'm Nick Conrad. It is lovely to have Donna Africa in the studio. The last time we spoke to Donna Africa on this programme, she was discussing the fact that her next-door neighbour had complained about her taking photos in the garden in her bikini. And she came on at that point and she talked about the fact that women of a certain age can still feel sexy and should celebrate their body. And there was a huge reaction to Donna coming on the radio and talking with such passion and authority about the issue. Now, since then, I've learned a lot more about Donna Africa, the fact that she is an actress, she is a poet, amongst other things, and a model as well. And so we thought we'd welcome Donna into the studio to talk more about her career, but also about her life as well. Life for you started in Africa. Tell me about your very beginnings.
Nick Conrad, you're far too kind, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come on your delightful show, and I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your support, BBC Radio Norfolk. I really appreciate it. And guys, come on, let's support each other. Sorry, what was that question?
The question was, where did this wonderful character, Donna Africa, enter the world?
Okay, first...
And I can't imagine it was a subtle entry.
First of all, Donna Africa is my alter ego. So I don't go around 24/7 being Donna Africa. That is a person I created. The Zulu warrior woman who could be strong, overcome all kinds of problems, overcome everything. You know, just a character emulating and paying homage to the great Zulu warrior Shaka Zulu.
So why did you create that character?
Well, it happened while I was feeling very depressed. It got me, I felt the strength. I had some losses in my life, which I don't really want to talk about right now, because I'm getting over them and I'm moving on with my life, so I don't want to really go backwards. But that's when I created the Zulu warrior woman who could overcome hurt and disappointment and loss. I felt the spirit. I know people are going to think I'm bonkers, but I spent most of my life in Africa. I grew up there. I was in Africa for, 40 years. And I worked with the Zulus there, so I know them very well, know the people, the customs. And I felt it was almost, I went into trance and I felt the spirit of Shaka Zulu. Call me mad, call me Penga, I don't care. But that's when I felt inspired by this great, strong warrior.
I find this interesting because very often we talk about mental health on this programme, as you know. Do you think that you created the alter ego because you were, it's in some ways compensation for weaknesses in your character at that time, the fact that you were feeling vulnerable, and so you could live through this alter ego?
Absolutely. I was feeling vulnerable. I was feeling lost. I was in a new country, lost my mother. That's the reason I came over here. Lost my home, and I did feel like that, and that's why I did create that person through that sadness. But out of it's also joy, because I'm hoping to inspire the people to overcome, mental health, depression. I think
this is why your story is very interesting. This is why I'm interested in your story. Let's just go back to Zimbabwe, because when we talk about Zimbabwe, we can't talk about it without talking about Robert Mugabe and what has happened in that country.
Ibagum.
When you look back at that country, when you look at how that country's changed, when you look at the likes of Mugabe, what is your overwhelming feeling?
Right, first of all, I hope you got my joke. Ibagum is Mugabe backwards. Let's keep it light. Well, I'm not a fan of Mugabe, obviously. Unfortunately, it's a tribal warfare.
Your family lost a lot under Mugabe.
No, farmers lost more than I did. I just lost a house. But the thing is that he is a tyrant. And the thing is, there are many tribes in Africa. There's not just one tribe. Mugabe is a Shona. Now, he kicked off the Zulus, the Matabele, which is also in Zimbabwe, because they fight he knows they are a stronger tribe. He's the weaker tribe, so he got rid of. He felt threatened by the Matabele, so took their land away. So let's talk about about the Africans. Their land was taken away by a black man. May I say that? Mm-hmm.
You moved on to places like South Africa, where you worked for quite some time. Very much so, Africa is in your blood, it's in your DNA. How did you come to this country?
By aeroplane, Nick.
Let me rephrase that, because people listening to you will say, "Oh, Donna Africa is Zimbabwe and she's South Africa and she's African." Well, actually, you're very British as well.
That's totally right, Nick. Thanks. You've done your research. Thank you so much. Both my late parents were British. My dad was from London and my mum was from Kent, and they both were paid at that time to go to Rhodesia to have a family and start a new life. And hence, that's where I was born and raised. And yes, so I've been brought up under colony. I am a colonial, last of the colonials, and I was brought up very British. My schools were all very British. I had British teachers, Scottish teachers. I had the Scottish teacher, he was going the purr, and I'm writing P-U-R-R because I couldn't understand what he was saying.
And the one thing I find fascinating when I read some of your poetry, when I've had interviews with you in the past, when we've spoken in the past, you don't see colour.
No, because that's just being blind, isn't it? I mean,
is that though about your upbringing? Is it about the fact that you lived in? Actually, you could argue it's an enforced multicultural environment, but you are
cosmopolitan, Nick. Cosmopolitan.
Cosmopolitan, but you worked with people
and
of all
a rainbow
nation.
Rainbow nation. I grew up with all types. It takes all types to take a world, and wouldn't it be boring if everyone was the same? I wouldn't want to be in a world like that.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about your differences, because your differences in terms of the way that you do your poetry, the way that you perform, are really refreshing, actually. Well, they are, because you perform everything. Shall we? This is probably the best point to listen to a piece of poetry, and we are going to start with an African piece of poetry which has been put to the music of Kevin MacLeod. Okay,
it's called Asimbananga, which means one who is yet to be seen.
Right, should we listen to it, then we'll talk about it? Here it is.
Asimbananga, one who is yet to be seen. Written by Donna Africa, the Queen of Dreams, and her creative team. Yabagogo, wena. So off I ventured on my journey 6 years ago to a land anew with great hope and belief in my heart to realize, create, and make true my African dreams. Asimbananga, hey you, hey wena. Hail to one who has yet to be seen. Crossing colossal deep blue and stormy seas to a great and united kingdom, so afar and verdant green, to a land that I'd never seen. Leaving my homeland, Zimbabwe and Africa, so far behind me, to pursue and realize my frustrated pent-up African dreams that had for so long lay dormant, caged and embedded deep down inside of me, longing to be liberated, heard, and finally set free. Asimbananga, hey you, hey wena. Hail to one who has yet to be seen.
Okay, Donna, just explain what we've just heard.
Right, that poem I wrote for my Britain's Got Talent audition and X Factor audition, which I made both of them into the lives. But it's basically Asimbananga, Zulu meaning one who is yet to be seen. I am taking on the personage, how do you say it? The
persona.
The persona of Shaka Zulu, who was a great king and chieftain who united all the tribes as one in unity. So this poem is about unity and also about realizing a long life dream of mine to realize my dreams that I could not possibly achieve in Africa because I was cut off from the rest of the world. I lived under UDI in Rhodesia, where we were cut off from the rest of the world.
Well, for those who don't know, what does UDI mean?
We were sanctioned against the rest of the world.
Yes.
I can't remember. Can you look it up on Google?
Of course I can.
UDI.
UDI.
Yeah, Rhodesia, UDI. They put as a kid, I couldn't get any electrical items, and we couldn't get musicians or anything. And then when I went to South Africa, I got there in the tail end of the apartheid years. So again, I was cut off from the rest of the world. So when I say hey you, hey wena, wena is Zulu, which means you. And if I could just say the last verse, Asimbananga, hey you, hey wena, that means you. Hell to one has yet to be seen, because I don't think I have been seen properly, as I truly believe and advocate that it's never too late and you're never too old to realize and create your dreams. So there's that message in there. My poetry is full of messages, if anyone cares to read it.
I want to go on to that message in a moment, but about flying the flag for mature women. The Unilateral Declaration of Independence is commonly referred to as the UDI, and it was a statement adopted by the Cabinet of Rhodesia on the 11th of November 1965, announcing that Rhodesia, a British territory in Southern Africa, had self-governance.
Yes.
So that's what it stands for.
Yes.
Flying the flag for mature
Did you know
women.
that the Prime Minister, Ian Smith, was the youngest, he was 20, he was the youngest Prime Minister ever?
20?
He was 25.
Really? Gosh.
You look in the Google, it's very interesting. I know, but it's very colonial, but I know you understand, because you're a colonial yourself, because your grandparents and you're colonial as well. That's why we get on so well.
Let's talk about flying the flag
Okay.
for mature women. I mean, that's quite a big statement. But why are you doing that? Why is that so important to you?
Well, I suppose it's from women's insecurities that's been put on us. As a young girl, I was a bit tubby, Nick. I was called Donut, and I was bullied. But I would be entered into beauty competitions, but every year, without fail, I was never good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't thin enough. And every year I watched my friends who would be up on the stage, and I'd be in the audience being very jealous, thinking, oh, I want to be up there. So when I came to England and saw, because in Africa it's very conservative, they frown on that. They don't like that sort of thing. So when I arrived here, Nick, I saw what these ladies were doing. I thought, I'm going to give it a bash. And so that's why I started it with Andreas, as you know. And then I carried on, and I've just carried it on. And I think it's very important to beautify age and stop. I don't know, I get a bit cross about it because, we're all going to get older. We don't stay young forever. And I feel there's a stigma against mature beauty, and it annoys me.
But what kind of reaction do you get? I'm not going to speculate on your age, but it's plus 50, just. What kind
What?
And a few more.
I think you made a mistake there.
So what kind of reaction do you get when you do strip down to a bikini or down to a corset and people are taking photos of you? Is it an overwhelmingly positive reaction, or do you actually get some negative comments? And if so, from who?
I think it's a bit of both. Men seem to appreciate me. I'm very lucky that I do have curves. I use a corset. I've done waist training, and also being a dancer. I was a dancer for many years in South Africa. I've kept my hourglass figure, and I'm proud of it. And I've got a lot of pride in what I do. And those haters, well, they're just a waste of energy, a waste of time. Move on. I've got no time for them. There's always some reason they don't like you. They're either jealous or there's some sort of reason.
Well, what if feminists criticised you and said, you say you're flying the flag for mature women, yet you are relying on your looks and your beauty and your attractive figure to do that, and to really fly the flag for mature women, it should be about intellect and the fact that there should be equal opportunities for women in society. How would you answer a critic who might say that?
Well, I think there's also depth to my modelling. I think that I am multifaceted. I hope I got that pronounced that properly. I think that I've got depth. I've got life experience. So it's not all about posing. And I always have some sort of look in my eye. It's not exactly what you call it. I sort of base it on a more classical Hollywood sort of style posing, and I'm always thinking of a theme and depth. And there is 3D in my. There's a lot of depth in my photographs, and I think you could read a lot into it. So I think I do have some sort of depth to the modelling.
Well, you've been in Norwich for 10 years, and actually, what is interesting, you've come to this city as a totally unknown individual. having done a lot of media work elsewhere around the world, we should say, but you've come to this country, you've come to this city as a totally unknown person. And in that time, in that 10 years, you've taken part in numerous television programmes, lots of reality TV programmes, a number of films, many of which that actually have ended up being quite celebrated releases as well, British films. You've got a very successful online presence as well. You've got the poetry that you do. And so in 10 years, you've created this kind of celebrity around this character that you have created, Donna Africa. I mean, that in itself is actually quite an achievement. It's quite interesting. But 10 years in, how would you say Norwich views you?
That's a good question. Thank you, Nick. I've worked very, very hard. I created out of nothing. I created that character out of nothing. I have created a sort of status for myself. I get a lot of support from the newspaper, from the EDP, from you, from BBC Radio Norfolk, from the local TV station, Mustard TV, thank you very much. But unfortunately, I have approached, and also from Star Wars, thank you, Richard Walker, for all your support. But unfortunately, I don't get any support elsewhere. I have gone, offered my services for modelling to a lot of local yokels here, and they don't want to know. I get the backdoor treatment. They don't want to know anything about me. I've not been successful with them, connecting with them. But does not put me off. I mean, I think that we should...
Does that stir you on? Because often people will say in this industry, well, I'm not going to help you, you're on your own. But it appears that rather than being defeated, you've thought, right, well, I'm on my own, I'll make it work for myself. Exactly.
It just makes me more and more determined. The more and more you say no, the more and more I'm going to carry on. So you might as well give up now and just accept me. That's what I say.
Well, let's talk about one of those talent shows that you went on, because we're going to end on one of the poems from it that you wrote about your experience coming up against one Anne Robinson. You've been on programmes like The X Factor, Four Rooms, and also on The Weakest Link. So you obviously get a buzz and enjoyment out of doing live television and doing radio programmes like this.
Oh, yes. I'm such an attention seeker.
Well, if somebody said you were an attention seeker, how would you answer that?
Well, look, I would just say that most people that do my sort of thing are attention seekers, aren't they? I mean, look at Russell Brand, and not that he's very sexy, but I'm just saying most people are, aren't they? I mean, I came with a family of four. I had to do something to get attention.
Very good point. Let's then end on your thoughts on Anne Robinson in poetry form. And I should just stress, a lot of your work is actually poetry. So, and you've had a number of books out. So you went on The Weakest Link. Now, how far did you get through The Weakest Link?
I made it to the third level. And it was an ABBA question, but let me just, I'm a big fan of ABBA now, but in the heyday, I was a big rock chick, so ABBA was not my favourite group, that must be said. And I also got a little bit, it was a long day, you're there the whole day, you see me up there and you see me for a couple of minutes or so, but it's a whole day. You're in the green room, you're getting taught, there's rules, you have to look at this camera, you have to switch your board. It's not just simply, it's all right when you're sitting at home, you go, yeah, that's a silly woman, that's the answer. No, but when you're there in the studio, and Anne Robinson is quite formidable, and she was quite cheeky to me. I don't look at the camera. I'm just enjoying myself, and it was such a wonderful time because they paid for us to go to Scotland, and I'd been there before, but I had never seen the Clyde River, and I went into the BBC. This is where it took place. It's a glass tower.
Yes, yeah, I've worked there a couple of times.
It's absolutely so impressive. Yeah. So this opportunity, you don't get any, everyone says, everyone thinks they get paid. No, I do not get paid for it. Okay, people?
Well, you're in it, hopefully, to win the money, because the whole thing about The Weakest Link is that you build up some kind of cash deposit, but sadly...
I only made it to the third round.
Okay, let's hear the poem. Donna, lovely to see you, as always.
Oh, Nick, thank you so much for inviting me on your programme. And, I just want to thank you so much. Bye, donkey, minia.
Which is Afrikaans for?
Many thanks, mister.
Thank you. The poem all about Anne Robinson.
Right, here we go. Ode to Anne Robinson. Sarcastic, acerbic, and witty is she, aptly nicknamed the Queen of Mean, as she never puts her contestants at ease in The Weakest Link. At tea time on the BBC, a superior quizmaster is she, who daily graces our TV screens, authoritatively dressed in black, with fiery Irish auburn locks, as she belittles and mocks, in a nonchalant, talented way, as this regal lady in black will always have her say. A national treasure is she, and we Brits would have no other to grace our tea time telly screens, as we know this is all done tongue-in-cheek, with jest aplenty and much fun on the BBC One. At the end of the popular TV show, the winner triumphant with all the lolly and looks away announcing, "You are the weakest link," with a wry smile and a cheeky wink. It very much leaves me to think that maybe you and I could be the missing link.
Donna, thank you.
Pleasure.